In 1949, China began one of the greatest transformations of modern history. On October 1st, standing before a massive crowd in Tiananmen Square, Mao Zedong declared the founding of the People's Republic of China. This moment marked the end of a long and brutal civil war and the beginning of a new, uncertain era under Communist Party rule. For a nation scarred by decades of conflict, invasion, and instability, Mao's promise was one of a unified, strong, and self-reliant China. The world watched, holding its breath, as the most populous nation on earth embarked on a radical new path. Mao Zedong, a revolutionary leader who had guided the Communist Party through its long march to victory, now faced the monumental task of rebuilding a shattered country. Inspired by the Soviet model, he set out to forge a socialist state. The first years were a whirlwind of change. The government nationalized industries, bringing banks, factories, and major businesses under state control. The goal was to eliminate the old class structures and create a society where the workers and peasants were the masters of their own destiny. A new marriage law was introduced, granting women rights they had never known before, including the freedom to choose their own partners. Propaganda posters filled the streets, depicting a vibrant, hopeful future, a stark contrast to the harsh realities many still faced. Mao's personality cult began to take root, with his image and ideology becoming central to the nation's identity. He was hailed as the great helmsman guiding the ship of state through treacherous waters. One of the first and most significant policies was agrarian reform. For centuries, Chinese peasants had been trapped in a system of tenancy, working land owned by a small, wealthy elite. The Communist Party promised to overturn this system, encapsulated in the slogan "Land to the Tiller." Across the countryside, land was seized from landlords and redistributed among the peasant population. This was often a violent and chaotic process, with public denunciation meetings where landlords were brought to account for past exploitation. For millions of poor farmers, receiving a plot of land was a life-changing event, a dream they never thought possible. This move secured immense loyalty for the party in rural areas, forming the bedrock of its support for years to come. However, this period of individual ownership was short. By the late 1950s, Mao had a far grander vision. He launched the Great Leap Forward, a wildly ambitious campaign to rapidly transform China from an agrarian economy into a modern industrial powerhouse, aiming to overtake Britain and America in just a few years. The countryside was reorganized into massive people's communes, where all land, tools, and even personal belongings were pooled. Private farming was abolished. People were mobilized to work on huge infrastructure projects and, most infamously, to produce steel in backyard furnaces. The idea was that sheer revolutionary fervor and manpower could conquer any obstacle. But the reality was a catastrophe. The backyard furnaces produced useless, low-quality metal, and diverting labor from the fields led to a collapse in agricultural production. This, combined with poor weather and flawed policies, triggered a devastating famine. It is estimated that tens of millions of people died from starvation between 1959 and 1962, a tragedy of unimaginable scale that was hidden from the world and even from many within China. The failure of the Great Leap Forward temporarily weakened Mao's position within the party, but he was not one to remain on the sidelines. In 1966, fearing that the revolution was losing its way and that capitalist elements were creeping back into society, he unleashed the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. It was a call to arms for China's youth to bombard the headquarters and root out his political rivals. Millions of young Red Guards, armed with Mao's Little Red Book, went on a rampage. They targeted anyone deemed a class enemy: intellectuals, teachers, officials, and even their own families. Ancient temples, art, and books were destroyed as remnants of a feudal past. Universities were closed, and society descended into chaos and violence. The Cultural Revolution tore the fabric of Chinese society apart, leaving deep scars of trauma and distrust that would take generations to heal. It was a decade of profound turmoil that only ended with Mao's death in 1976. After Mao's death, a power struggle ensued, from which Deng Xiaoping, a veteran revolutionary who had been purged twice during the Mao era, emerged as China's paramount leader. Deng took a very different approach. He recognized that the country was on the brink of collapse and that radical change was needed. His philosophy was pragmatic, famously summarized by his saying, "It doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as a cat is mice." Starting in the late 1970s, he initiated a period of reform and opening up. The communes were dismantled, and farmers were allowed to sell their surplus produce on the open market, unleashing a wave of rural productivity. He established special economic zones along the coast, like Xinjiang, which became laboratories for market-based capitalism, attracting foreign investment in technology. Deng's reforms kicked off an economic miracle, while maintaining the party's political monopoly. He set China on a course toward integrating with the global economy, a decision that would change the world. The decades following Deng's reforms saw China transform at a speed unprecedented in human history. Skylines that were once lurid were suddenly filled with gleaming skyscrapers. Poverty rates plummeted, as hundreds of millions were lifted into a new urban middle class. China became the world's factory, its manufacturing prowess fueling global supply chains. The 2008 Beijing Olympics was a spectacular coming-out party, showcasing a modern, confident, and powerful nation to the world. In the 21st century, China began to transition from a manufacturing hub to a technological leader, pioneering advancements in areas like high-speed rail, 5G technology, and artificial intelligence. Companies like Alibaba and Tencent became global giants, rivaling their counterparts in Silicon Valley. This rapid ascent shifted the global economic center of gravity eastward. In 2012, Xi Jinping came to power, ushering in a new era. She has overseen a significant centralization of authority, removing presidential term limits and embedding his own political philosophy into the party's constitution. He has launched a sweeping anti-corruption campaign that has disciplined over 1 million officials, but which critics say has also been used to eliminate political rivals. Under his leadership, the party has reasserted its control over all aspects of society, from the economy to the internet. Nationalism has been heavily promoted, with an emphasis on the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. This has marked a departure from the more collective and cautious leadership style of his predecessors, making Xi arguably the most powerful Chinese leader since Mao Zedong. As China's power has grown, so too have global tensions. Its relationship with the United States has become increasingly adversarial, marked by trade wars and competition over technological supremacy. The issue of Taiwan remains a critical flashpoint, with Beijing viewing the self-governing island as a renegade province to be unified by force if necessary. And internationally, China has faced growing criticism over its human rights record, particularly its policies in Xinjiang, the crackdown on dissent in Hong Kong, and its pervasive system of state surveillance. These issues have complicated its global ambitions and its relationships with Western democracies. From the revolutionary fervor of 1949 to its status as a 21st century superpower, China's journey has been one of dramatic upheavals, astonishing achievements, and immense human cost. Today, it stands at a crossroads, navigating complex domestic challenges in an increasingly tense international environment. The story of modern China is far from over, and its next chapter will undoubtedly continue to redefine the global balance of power. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.